Okay. Already got somebody in comments waiting. Um, this is a really interesting live we're doing here, kind of just jumping into it, but I have a very special guest that I want to bring on. You guys know him as the Dugan. Ashley. What's up? Dude, that's crazy.
Hi, how's it going?
Dude, uh,
Hope everybody's doing well.
hell yeah, man. I'm honestly, man, seeing your videos and seeing like the light back in your eyes and your energy, and like that's a huge difference from where we saw, the big video that kind of rattled the world. So like, how's your health? How are you doing?
Oh, well, I'm doing good. It's kind of unexpected. I'm doing a lot better than I thought I would be doing. You know, like, uh, uh, so I just recently had like a cognitive battery test taken at the VA for like over a decade, and so um, it has its up and downs, and I keep track of cognitive degradation over the years with the battery tests that they do, and it's kind of like a constant downturn. And the last one they did was like it was better, but not only was it better, it was significantly better. It was not only significantly better, it was the best I've ever taken, and some of the parameters like memory, like reciting numbers backwards and stuff, are in like the 90th percentile of like for humans. You know what I mean? So it was like a really bizarre turnaround. And then I've had a lot of physical progress recently, especially in the last 2 months, I'd say. A lot of physical progress where like I exercise and try to kind of like ride the dragon and push the decay away with being fit, and it's it's really going. I'm doing stuff now that I would have trouble doing like back in my younger days. So overall it's really good.
That's awesome,
The
dude.
Sure, yeah, no, and I love it. I'm really worried about the world. I'm worried about the world, and I'm worried about other people, and
Yeah,
like I wish that everybody is going through a lot of suffering right now. Like no matter like everybody in the world is going through suffering, and so that's kind of like what brings me back. Like everything about what uh, like my path has ended up being has led me to want to be alone and secluded and worry about myself, and that's it. But the way that the world is going makes me, it like brings me back out to especially right now, because I feel so like I feel for the world alone. You know what I mean? Like I could feel the isolation of people and the misinformation of people, and how people feel alone, and that's like that brings me out. It
yeah.
motivates me to make contact.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of like when we started talking offline tonight, um, kind of what started the conversation. And, we're talking about what you were going through, things that I'm going through, and, kind of the world. And I think uh, you got a message to get out. I think with everything going on in the world, not to include the last hundreds and hundreds or even thousands of years, but specifically the last 2 years, things have changed considerably. Like, what's your take on everything that's been going on in the world and with the general populace?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. The first thing that I would say is that anybody that's listening to this is going to have a certain degree of a sense of isolation right now, and you're gonna have a sense of things radically changing because they have. One of the like the first thing to do is to alleviate what we can with comfort that's logical and makes sense. Now the first thing that is comforting in a way is that you have to understand that what is going on right now is extreme. But what you have to understand is that it is uniquely in terms of the time frame, in terms of like history, what is going on is stressful and extreme for everybody in the entire world. So there is relief in under being able to understand that everybody in the world right now that is using money, that is engaged in a society which is 99% of the human population, you know, more than that, is going through both stress and is lamenting about the changes and wishing for the past. That is like everybody on the planet. So you're not alone, and
Yeah.
that's the first thing. Like knowing that you're not alone on a ride makes it a lot easier to kind of get your bearings and be like, okay, like I'm still alive. I'm going through this, and so is everybody else. So it's like my seatmate sitting next to me on the log ride, right? That's the
Yeah.
first thing to understand. Uh, in terms of where we're going, it could get pretty extreme because what is going on is it really is unprecedented, and to kind of go to a bird's eye view, like you really have to look at what is being implemented and to draw it out like a picture so that you can look at it without being tainted by the normalcy of it. What is going on is that you have organized governments that are hooked up to the money system that have now made it so that you know a sickness comes into the public and washes through the entire world, and to get the cure or to be right, to be good, you have to go to the power. So you go to the
Yeah.
power, and then the power holds the keys to give you what's going to make you right, like what's going to make things right. In terms of how that manifested in the current paradigm is with the vaccine, right? And the vaccine,
Hmm.
obviously, there's like, it's you're getting down in the weeds and into like doing a lot of work to try to explain vaccines. It's better to go more broad in the implication of this and the impact of this. The real impact is much broader than the implication of just arguing the efficacy of vaccines in general as a technology. The real impact is that we have technologically gone to a paradigm where the power holders have the keys to make you right so that you can go out in public and shop for an illness, which has never been done. Like we've had like Black Plague has taken place in Europe in multiple centuries, in multiple iterations, and in the main one in what would be like I think like 1300s you had a big wave, 1500s you had a huge wave, and when that came through, it killed a huge portion of Europe's or the entire. I mean, it was the entire world had a big proportion taken out, but
Yeah.
particularly Europe. And when that happened, there was no key. There was no, like the power was divided from the plague. So the Black Plague came through and it would like, cause mass death, but there was nothing that anybody could do about it. The difference between that and now is that the media dictates how severe it is by telling you, and the business world implements it into policy. So if the media says this is the worst plague that's ever come, and then if there's a legal business policy through money that says this is the worst illness that's ever come through here, and so we have to, change our business parameters so that you can't come in here, during a plague, during an epidemic, unless you're vaccinated or whatever. Then that's where the keys come in. That's like
Yeah, you can't
the
live.
keys to you can't live, right? You
Yeah.
can't live by modern means, and that's really the striking difference between now and prior history of what has changed, and that power is held in private companies that are producing the vaccines, and their entire histories, the histories of the companies, how they fit into the world, what the power structure is between governments and like big pharma, pharmaceutical industry, eugenics, all of that, like who should be born, who should be vaccinated, who should die, who should yada yada yada, all these questions. This is all stuff that is forced to the forefront cathartically to be worked out in the next generation.
Yeah. Now thinking back to like the Spanish flu and the plague and all this shit, though the power didn't hold the keys, do you still think there was like, is there evidence of like propaganda, propaganda like controlling the general populace or anything like that?
Yeah, there always is. There's always at least two ways. You have like the immediate redirection, where like whatever immediate effort is going on in the political power will try to disposition themselves to direct the flow of energy from an epidemic, a pandemic, into their hands. And then you have the follow up, which is like like either we will fix this, how do we fix this, or this happened last time, let's make it so it can't happen in the future. And that is always a follow up. um, it's tough to say how this is going to go. I think the only thing that's for sure about what just took place is that humanity just got trained on how to be compliant. Like,
Yeah.
regardless of what you think about the like vaccines, or there's a lot of straw man arguments that really aren't important. Like, if you go into the normal channels of politics in commentary on social media, commentary on any kind of like MSM coverage on the topic, the argument is about the efficacy of vaccines, the like, as
Mandates.
technology, do vaccines work? How well do they work? What are the long term effects of vaccine? This is this is a straw man argument. This is an argument that is set up that is not as important as the true heart of the argument, which is it right for a group of people to hold the keys for another group of people to live? And that's really what the argument is. And
Mm.
what has been set up is like what has really happened here, if you stand back and look at it from a bird's eye view, is that humanity has been trained. We, as humanity, by being compliant in the United States, in Europe and Canada, like in the Americas and in Europe and in being compliant, we have trained all of the governments to tell them, if there is a deadly virus that comes out, and if you come out with implementations to uh, social distancing, mandatory vaccination, things like that, we won't fight. We will comply. And that's really, we train the governments uh, to accept as true, from account. And so therefore, logically, in the future, you should expect nothing less. So you should expect, obviously coronavirus, even though it hasn't been a talking point, there really isn't an argument against accepting that this is a man-made weaponized virus, which is a first in terms of world pandemics, another first. Like there's lots of things that are unique about this paradigm that we're in. But there's a man-made virus, regardless of whether you think it's the United States or China, which is a strawman argument. Just the fact that a man-made virus is now affecting everything from economics to our way to the day-to-day living of like a working man family. It's a man-made virus. It's a weaponized virus that has been introduced in a peace contest context in the global day-to-day lives of everybody in the world, and it's a weapon. Regardless of where it came from, it is a weapon. And so, if there's a weapon that's released, and if there's a power that holds that accessible key to let you continue to live, then that is a connection that has been entrained into both the powers that be and the citizenries of each respective country. And that's the bigger point.
So, okay, looking at everything that's going on in the world right now, we got, I'm not sure, how far, because you kind of said you've been like just you in the trees, chilling in the woods, but, you know, when we're looking at everything going on with the truckers and all that, I see like the mainstream media has set this up to where they used to bring excuses out after something occurred. Now what they're doing is they're almost like queuing excuses up in advance. And with the potential of all these shortages and supply chain shortages and all the shit that we've been talking about forever, and now there's the issues with all these truckers and the fact that every single thing that we need to survive nearly is imported into our country. Do you think that this could be them queuing up an excuse for a shortage or food shortages or supply chain shortages, or affecting us directly on what we need to survive? Or what do you think that may symbolize?
Yeah, I think there's 2 points there. One of them is like a point on shortages of what people need, and the second point is kind of a more broad, like a more global point.
Mhm.
Uh, in terms of shortage, I think that what we've seen when the coronavirus came out, what you saw were some very strange. There are things that didn't really add up. They only added up where money was concerned, meaning that there were, like, I read a story about, I think it was Norway. I hope it was Norway, where the farmers that supplied like mink fur to the world, and they got orders to cull their stock due to coronavirus. So they killed like a million mink. That may be
What?
exaggerated, the number. I can't remember the article, but they culled their mink, and that went all the way down into like chicken stock, where people were getting orders both from governmental entities, but also from non-governmental entities, suggesting suggesting that they cull their stock for farming. And the way that this was accomplished was because in the situations that these were presented, it was backed by insurance. It was backed by some kind of payment to where the producer could not supply whatever it was that they produced, and instead have a bailout from like a governmental bailout, like a bank bailout. So in the case of the mink, you know, it was very minor because people don't, you don't necessarily need mink, right? You don't need mink fur. But by not producing that year, that much mink didn't go out of the factory. It didn't go to whatever store shelves it was going to go to. It didn't go on the shoulders of whoever it was going to go to. Well, that's mink, But when you take that into things like egg shortages, like I'm sure that a lot of people are familiar with the egg shortages that came from cartons, that came through carton manufacturing. You could see how a severe shortage in chicken eggs could really affect a lot of people. Like
Oh yeah.
eggs are extremely cheap. It's a source of protein that's in the United States. Everybody eats, a lot of people eat chicken eggs. A
Yeah.
shortage in eggs could have a major impact on the nutrition of families across the entire world. And you did see a shortage of eggs, but it just really didn't make sense. It didn't make sense. It was like a situation where you knew it was reported that there was a shortage of eggs. They told you, but they didn't. You couldn't really explain why. You just had to accept that that's just how the system is. Like it's just convoluted enough to where we don't really know why there's a shortage, but you just have to accept that these things happen with the pandemic. And then it went all the way into like, I heard in my area, like I live rurally, and there are a lot of cow farming. There's a lot of cow farming and a lot of corn and bean around where I'm at. And you had
Mhm.
stuff like there was a farmer that told me he got like orders from like a fake governmental agency asking him to cull stock and stuff. Obviously, they're not going to do that because they're not going to miss out on money. But
Yeah.
uh, it exposed, really exposed a vulnerable stock cold of the things that people really need. I mean, I know we live in a time of plenty, but if we didn't have what we needed, if we focused on all the things that were actually important, that really mattered, like the protein that families put in their mouths, things like that, and we looked at, if there were a shortage in those critical items, like beef, eggs, dairy, things like protein, things uh, like gas, things like. I'll tell you what happened. I worked for a um, like public works doing water and sewer, and so automatically when you get your water certification, you automatically get notifications from your state certifying agency for your water licensing. And like I know that once the pandemic started, I got emails about hypochlorite shortages. So all of the states in the United States treat their water typically with a chlorine type of you know chemical disinfectant, chlorine, chloramine, hypochlorite, things like that. And there were shortages. There were chlorine shortages across the board, uh, and we got emails about them. And the implications of like there wasn't anything that I saw major in the news, but just the emails that I received alone through state agencies that notified us as water operators of disinfectant shortages. It um, it really rang fishy. Number one, and it really made you think about the implications because if you didn't have hypochlorite to disinfect water, that means that now you don't have water for hospitals, you don't have water for restaurants, you don't have water for schools, you don't have water for. I mean, it's everything that draws central water
Yeah.
would have contaminated water. It's just a major deal that is it's so simple that you don't consider. But if you didn't have it, it would be catastrophic. And I think that's really the position that a lot of people got put in, is considering that and thinking about like or like like what did a lot of people go through at the beginning of the pandemic was was it toilet paper shortages and stuff like that?
Yeah, well, the funny thing is, that, and just by the way, there's a little bit of a delay, so just a heads up. But it's interesting because looking at a man-made virus and a man-made vax and it seems like a lot of these shortages were also man-made as well, including the toilet paper, because what happens is, like, psychologically, when people go out and they go shopping and they see that all of the toilet paper racks are completely empty, what do? They freak out and find a way to get toilet paper, because if it's all gone, everyone must be stocking up on it for a reason. So I need to go get it now. I need to go get it now, with that consumerism brain, that's been programmed already. So, I think a lot of it was the masses reacting, but I also think a lot of it was, the mainstream media showing fights in stores over toilet paper, and, just crazy shit like that. So we were kind of doing it to ourselves in a way.
Yeah, for sure. I think the media absolutely plays a role in this, and I don't want to be pussyfooting about this. Like, I want to make sure that I'm clear. You should, anybody that's watching this should understand that, if nothing else, you should understand how um, I mean, the media is entirely culpable for what's going on. You know, any panic that's induced by coverage or communication, it's not. It shouldn't be brushed aside that the media creates it, and it shouldn't be brushed aside um, that the media is. It's both homogenous in the way that it covers information, meaning that if there's like a story that's decided by the powers that be that it be headline, then it's headline. It's homogenous in that way, but it's also homogenous in that it's decisive. Like a story that comes out in the media is decisive, where you have a side A and a side B, and to someone that is new to thinking about media that way, it can be confusing that, well, if there's a side that disagrees with it, that's not homogenous. But when you think about it, everything is polar, like north south. So when you have an issue like a war, there's going to be for and against automatically and naturally. And those are like the two polar sides. So just because you have polarity in media doesn't mean that there's different sides. Like you're still creating a war where there wasn't a war. You're just creating both sides for and against. You see what I'm saying?
Mm.
But there wasn't a war there, and the media just created a war out of nowhere. And so this is really important when you look at stuff like elections, you know, right versus left. It's really important when you look at extremes. It's really important when you look at things like vaccines. Do you vax or do you not? Like these are all polar, and the reason why polar is important is because in logic, that would be like the way to actually cause the society do things by gaming the human brain is with Hegelian dialectic, where you're like, they call it like Hegelian dialectic or an Overton window, where you have a window of normalcy that you slowly move towards the direction that you want it to go. And you do that by playing both sides in a, a thesis, like something that's presented, an idea, a reaction
Mm.
to that idea, the antithesis, and then the synthesis. Well, that's just a fancy word for what ends up coming out between them. So if you push way hard, way too hard in one direction, like Antifa storming the streets, right? Antifa overthrowing cities and police departments can't handle it, right? Uh, and then police departments get disbanded and defunded because they can't handle it, right? Or they handle it too hard or whatever. That's
Yeah.
that thesis. Uh, your antithesis is everybody gets fed up with the crime that comes about because there's no law enforcement. Everybody gets fed up with the socialism taking over, right? They
Hmm.
get afraid of that. They don't want to see that. They don't want to see socialism take over their nation. And so what do they allow? They allow a lapse in the Constitution. And you have a drop in constitutional law for a period. Because it's necessary, right? To
Yeah.
follow socialism. Well, that's your synthesis, right? So what you wanted from the beginning as a tyrannical power, you wanted the Constitution to get overthrown. What's in the way? A very powerful country with a lot of strong people, with a lot of weaponry that you can't go up against. There's no way that you can go up against. So what
Yeah.
do? You give them you get them to do it themselves. You see what I mean? And this is
Yeah.
the that's I think that's ultimately the big picture is to understand the possibility that it's not about freedom of choice. It's about freedom from choice, freedom from having to choose A or B.
Hmm. Damn. That's an interesting way to look at it, man. That's pretty deep. Now, I mean, do you think that this everything over the last 2 years, the lockdowns, the overstepping, the encroachments, do you think that that too was a test to see kind of how far they could overstep without causing an uprising, or like what do you think?
It's certainly a buildup towards something. Like all this stuff is investment. Like you if you accept that the coordinated riots across the United States at one time were natural, then I am sorry for you. But
Yeah,
to 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 really look at the scope of what happened, how many? I mean, it's over 100 cities that had riots. It's something that requires a lot of investment. You just don't do anything like that for no reason. You don't invest that. I mean, that's a lot of gas for cars. It's a lot of time for people to be involved in rioting. It's a lot
yeah,
of things going on, and you have to understand that this all stopped. So there's no riots right now. You know, there were riots all across the United States, so
the whole
powerful that
summer.
police stations were burning down, and they couldn't
Yeah,
do anything about it. There were so many people that police couldn't stop it, even with their weapons. It wouldn't have done any good. And
dude, we
so,
watched it live actually. Literally, we watched it live while somebody walked into a burnt down police station in what was it? Minneapolis, I think it was, or I can't recall right offhand. And just to throw this out there real quick,
yeah,
not to sidetrack, but um, David Kopp, Thomas Hardy, a lot of you know the folks, the OGs are up in here. David Kopp actually just gave a donation. Thank you, brother. Appreciate you. He says, Doug, we need you. You're the hero we don't deserve. Don't go MIA again. Glad you're alive and well. Love you too, Dark. Thanks, buddy. Sorry I've been MIA, just been disconnecting more lately because I'm exhausted with everything going on. Love you all. That's something that Dugan and I were talking about as well, is the impact that all this is having on like the familial unit and what it's doing to, you know, the household, and that's causing irreparable damage all across. I mean, it's affecting everyone.
yeah. I think that the family note is the most important. It's the most important thing to hold together. It's everything that all of this is all about, and it's really something that what we should do is when we conclude this, we should wrap around in the family so that we close out on it, because it
Yeah,
really is the only thing that all this is about.
yeah, for sure.
The the going back to what we were just discussing about the riots.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
important. It's important for people to understand that you know before these riots there were mass shootings. Now that you have coronavirus, there really aren't mass shootings. I mean, maybe you'll have one, but it's not the same. You know what I mean? Like mass shootings are not something that's like a threat that is occurring all the time. You know,
yeah,
when there's not mass shootings, there might be riots. When there's not riots, there might be coronavirus. These are these are things to pay attention to because they expose the design and the limitations and the framework of the control paradigm that the entire world finds itself in that has no guidebook or explanation to uh, help us along in identifying what the heck kind of confine or have we found ourselves in. Uh, in terms of the riots, it's extremely curious that police stations could be burned down in the way that we saw, uh, in such a widespread fashion and passionate way that then just suddenly subside and all the issues are taken care of, despite there being no resolution to anything. The cop,
Yeah.
the cop that was supposedly responsible for riots in Minneapolis didn't even get tried until far after all these riots stopped. This stuff is like totally disconnected. There is a energy here that motivates and directs all of the actions that are going on that is disconnected from logical deduction and sequence, to where if something like those riots were natural, they would just be, you definitely have a tapering off eventually. After, it would just continue and continue. It wouldn't just die down, especially unrelated to the thing that it's allegedly about. If that doesn't get resolved, it's not going to die down, right? Like if a cop steps on somebody's neck and kills them, and then it causes a riot and induces a riot because people are so upset about it, it's not going to resolve until there's justice there, right? Well,
Yeah.
not in our reality. It just resolves itself. And that's it's important. It's important to note. It's important to note that the mass shootings went away. You know, it's
Yeah.
important to note, right?
Well, and let's call it like it is. Like, during this whole situation, you made a really important observation that in all the major cities that all of these riots are occurring, which you're right, do take a lot of time, energy, effort, fuel, money, leadership, guidance, sponsorship, let's call it, right? And you made the observation that in every major city across the country where all these riots were most notable, there was also a DSA, or Democratic Socialists of America location, that were actively and openly online. I may be getting too far in the weeds, so let me know if I am, but they
No,
were
no, it's a good point.
actively, openly online. They were recruiting for what sounded like people to go out and protest, loot, riot, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And so to get background on this for people to look into. So what you could do if you really wanted to get into deep in the weeds on this, if you really want to know about the riots that took place in the United States, and if you're not satisfied with the police investigations that led nowhere, that have had, it's basically been virtually erased. Everybody's been told to stand down. All the police departments around the United States have been told to stand down. Nobody is allowed to pursue this. Okay, you can pursue it on your own. What I would recommend, what I would recommend is there is a website that is called KeyWiki. Okay, and KeyWiki is a it's a what if you could go to that so you could see the gentleman that's responsible for that. I don't vouch for that guy. So the guy that runs KeyWiki, I don't vouch for him. But if you go into KeyWiki, they have an excellent breakdown where they definitely have operatives in the United States tracking the DSA. If you go to the Democratic Socialists of America, uh, part of their menu, they have a huge breakdown of communist factions that are active in the United States and on KeyWiki, and Democratic Socialists of America is on there. And if you go in there, they will have a organizational map that's by now it's predated. You're going to be looking at like maybe a 2015 map or something like that. It doesn't matter. because historically the riots took place where they took place. You can take that 2015 map of the DSA that's on there, and you can scale it in a like in a software with an image of. You can look at any news media that released a map of all the riots in the United States, which there were several of them. Like CBS did it. Um, you had I think AP did one. Like there's a lot of independently generated maps that cataloged where riots took place in the United States after George Floyd, and they did that for the purpose of demonstrating how pervasive the riots were, like how big of a deal the disgruntled factions were about George Floyd. And so there's lots of maps that were generated, and if you put them into software where you can scale the images and overlay them, you will find that there is 100% matchup. Now, the statistical probability of that matching up is for it to be uh, unlikely that DSA is not involved in the riots is virtually impossible, because
Yeah.
the number of data points that you're talking about is over 100. You're
Mhm.
talking. I mean, it's something like it's been a few years now since I counted them, and I didn't count them before the stream. I know there's over 100. It's probably like 160 somewhere around there. Riot locations, and they all correspond to DSA posts around the United States. And
Yeah.
DSA, if you go into their funding, they're funded by the biggest companies in the United States. You have stuff like Alliance for Global Justice getting funding from Patagonia. You have, huge national companies that have massive revenues in the United States redirecting the money that you spend into funding ghost groups like Antifa that can't be caught by the police, that run city destabilizing operations when they're called upon in mass in unstoppable waves simultaneously through the United States. And this is kind of the flavor of the dystopian future that you're going to witness. This is power coming to display, a vulgar display of power for you to witness so that you know who's boss. And that's certainly what took place with the riots. And that's certainly what took place when you go into a store like Target and they have a mask policy where they won't let you spend money in the store unless you wear, a gag on your face. That is a display of power.
Yeah. Jim asked a great question. He said, "What's the connection between Weather Underground of the '70s and DSA and Antifa today?" That's an excellent question. It's
Yeah,
almost like
so that's a
you already
great
know what you're talking about.
that is a great question. So Weather Underground is a terrorist organization from the 1970s. They're highly active in the 70s up through the 80s. And what it
A
mostly
lot of
consisted of
explosives.
were Black Panther types, mostly like black nationalists who were being led by, conspicuously being led by, by Jews. And so this isn't like an anti-Jewish bit or anything like that. It's just the fact that it was Jews. So Susan Rosenberg is the one who ran the organization. Now, Weather Underground, for their emblem, is a rainbow. And if you're not familiar with this, the rainbow is very significant as a symbol because rainbows, especially for a terrorist organization to use rainbow, especially a terrorist organization that's ran by somebody with a last name with the surname of Rosenberg, is significant because the rainbow is synonymous with Noahide. So Noahide in the Noahic covenant is symbolized by the rainbow. And so it's extremely significant, and it also lends credence and lends insight into kind of the greater architecture of what's going on here. But it's a little bit too deep for us to get into in terms of time that we would have to spend on it. But what the Weather Underground was an organization that you did have members getting convicted of murders. They did commit murder, doing armed heists on like private banking cars and things like that. They killed security guards, and then you had Susan Rosenberg got convicted with like criminal possession of large amounts of high explosive. Like we're not talking about like she was digging a pond or something on a farm with dynamite. We're not talking like that. We're talking like TNT and plastic explosives in like 400-pound quantities in a city with Black Panthers with machine guns, things like that.
Yeah.
And she got convicted of that federally, and she got sentenced to prison, and she got actually pardoned by Bill
By Bill
Clinton when
Clinton.
he was leaving office.
Yeah.
When he was leaving office, so it's pretty heavy hitter stuff that is highly suppressed. And Susan Rosenberg, after she got out of prison, she kept pretty quiet, and then her most recent affiliation is with Thousand Tides, and with she's affiliated with A Thousand Tides, which is a nonprofit organization out of California, and she's with another one that were surrogates, legal surrogates for Black Lives Matter when they were first originating. And right now, Black Lives Matter is going through some significant stuff because they made, some significant scrutiny because they made a lot. You're talking, lots of millions of dollars donated over this last national episode, and they there isn't proper accounting to the number one thing for a nonprofit is if they amass a bunch of money and are not using it for their tax exempt purpose. If that happens, that's like the number one red flag. Well, Black Lives Matter has amassed tens of millions of dollars, and it's unused, and it's been unused for multiple annual periods since the riots. So it's a big stockpile of cash that is accrued, and they're kind of playing musical chairs right now, trying to figure out what they're gonna which way this is going to be played. I'm sure they're going to have somebody come in there and whisk it all away. But that's kind of the current state. Anyway, Susan Rosenberg was the last major point of contact to represent the elusive Black Lives Matter, and the
Yeah.
DSA is the yet in the papers, in terms of the historical record. There's still not a count or connection of DSA to Black Lives, or to Antifa rather. Antifa is
Yeah.
just a kind of like a ghost organization that hasn't had the tail pinned on the donkey. I am telling you right now, I am 100% confident. Dugan Ashley here is 100% confident that DSA is the fiscal organization, which is the only thing that matters, the economic conduit and energy for Antifa. And I'm telling you
Yeah.
that for any law enforcement or any citizen that would want to be a pain in the ass for Antifa, if you want to be a pain in the ass for Antifa, all you have to do is look into DSA, because I guarantee you that they're the actual rubber meets the road organization that is paying the bills of Antifa in your region.
Yeah. You're getting a lot of love in the comments, by the way. Thank you, John Crump. I appreciate you, man. Um, a lot of people miss you, man.
Well, I'm happy to be back right now.
So the way I see it is the DSA is like you said, kind of the power, the energy, the force. Behind Antifa. Antifa is the force in the streets, and BLM is connected. So to me, they're kind of all the same organization.
They are,
Uh,
they
yeah.
are, and their differentiation, their differentiation is only what is uh, only what is applicable to the present situation of what needs to be done for them,
Yeah,
for the two
they're
countries.
different tools. They're just
Yeah,
three different tools.
exactly.
Yeah. And Crazy Silly asks, what is DSA again? That is the Democratic Socialists of America.
Yeah, so the organization is the Democratic Socialists of America, and their map breakdown as well as uh, member groups. I mean, I'm talking like they have infiltrations into like private Facebook groups, like membership lists that are all pretty current within the last 5 years, available on KeyWiki. So if you go to KeyWiki DSA, if you did a search engine result search for KeyWiki DSA or KeyWiki Democratic Socialists of America, you'll find their entire layout map on KeyWiki. I should put that I do not vouch for the gentleman that runs KeyWiki, and I have
Hmm.
serious reservations about him.
Do you think the information is still solid though?
I think the information is solid. I think that it's a matter of like a part of the program and like what he's trying to show for a right wing cause. Uh, that's the purpose of him exposing DSA. And I think the information that he's presenting on KeyWiki is solid. I've looked through hours and hours of KeyWiki's, particularly their DSA affiliation maps, like all the way down to my local state. I'm in Missouri. I've researched the organizational charts in Missouri, and I'm familiar with a lot of them. I know the areas. I know the. I don't know the people, but I know the areas. Like I mean, like the buildings that they have meetings in and things like that. And I'm
Yeah.
confident that it's authentic information. I think if you found something that was active in your area from KeyWiki and you went and investigated it, you would find activity there. And if that was the case, you'd probably also have a riot in your area from related to BLM or Antifa.
Damn. So, how do you think that ties into everything that we were just to kind of pull it together for everyone watching? How do you think is we got 60 people in here now at 2:30 in the morning? By the way, that's pretty fucking impressive. Uh, what? How do you think that ties everything together to where we are today?
Well, uh, I think we are at the pre-springtime war effort. So, what you should know is that winters always slow down in a war effort, and the springtime is like high war. And so you've got springtime coming around. I would not expect things to get normal anytime soon. I would expect spring to get busy. I would expect the pace to pick up because if there's a lull, it gives a real opportunity. There's a real discomfort in the world right now, across the entire world, of suspicion and not accepting the narrative, and it is really being redirected in a bad way by people like Jordan Peterson and Joe Rogan and um, oh, that there's numerous kind of like pseudo mainstream
Like
bloggers
Steven
and
Crowder,
Crowder,
Project Veritas.
yeah, Veritas, Crowder, Russell
I mean,
Brand. There's
there's
lots of
documentation. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
there's lots of personalities out right now that are basically, as MSM becomes more obsolete, that are picking up the slack to encapsulate and pick up the masses so that they have a news source of information, so they can be told what to think and what to believe. And they're all extremely popular right now. Like if you haven't noticed, Joe Rogan has gone through an extreme surge in growth in like the past year. And same thing with like Russell Brand, and Jordan Peterson, and they're virtually like, they're becoming like bigger than media in a way, because with an anchor, there's a professional restraint of their persona, where it's like they have to be restrained to their desk as a meteorologist or as a reporter or whatever, and they're part of an organization. But with something like a podcaster, it's like they can become like idols, where
Yeah.
anything that they say is like personally invested in by their viewership. And so it's an important distinction, and it's gone hand in hand. The growth of all these individuals and their brands has gone hand in hand reciprocally to the decay of trust in the MSM. So
Yep.
as the world, as families across the world become disgusted and become distrustful of MSN, their trust has equally increased in kind of these alt media and pseudotypes and of media. And it's 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 alarming because it's very deceptive, and you have to be really paying attention to catch it. The biggest thing to catch it is the timing. When one thing picks up as another thing's letting off, like you were mentioning the trucker, blockades in Canada that are going on right now, supposedly,
Hmm.
that's completely in line with Turning Point USA doing a no mask revolt at schools in the northern United States. So, like in Minnesota, in a couple of other states, they're having like high school students doing like mass protests where they refuse to wear masks. But this is at the same time as the trucker revolts in Canada, which is
Yeah.
in Canada. That's where you have basically like a couple of large cities, um, Ottawa and Toronto, and that's pretty much it for Canada. It's like very concentrated, and that's where you get like your Jordan Peterson types, and out of that you get this stuff getting pushed down into the United States of you know the kind of deceptive waves of like pushback after you just had communist waves coming through the United States, destabilizing everything. Everything's getting burned down. Black Lives Matter is basically making. I mean, I'm going to like cities around here. I'm in rural Missouri. When I go to cities that are like St. Louis, Columbia, Kansas City, I'm seeing like suburban white neighborhoods with like Black Lives Matter signs out front, basically like "Don't burn down my house. Here's a Black Lives Matter sign." you
Yep.
know, like
And
that's
they
that's what
purposefully
I
put
mean.
them in like affluent areas and, try to
Affluent
create,
areas.
yeah, and they want to
Yep,
create
that's right.
this like social,
Yep,
um,
yep.
almost like social legislation. And one more thing, just to kind of go back really quickly, then we'll continue. For everybody that, left the mainstream media and you find alt media and you find the channels that you like and the people that you like, and, we fall into the same bad habits of getting information and then just accepting it as opposed to finding counter information and then researching it and then coming to and drawing our own conclusion. A lot of these alt media channels and businesses really have taken money from this, and there's documentation. They've taken money from the same dirty motherfuckers that are funding all the evil people on the other side. So don't get caught in this wave of just accepting information that we think is coming from a safe place, because this could all be by design. So I just wanted to add that in.
Yeah, timing is huge. Timing is massive, right? Like you have to take a realistic account of what's going on. You've got every single person in the United States that's a real human being, really alarmed and on edge for years about what's going on. For years. Now all of a sudden you have out of Canada and out of this entire like supposed revolt is starting to like come together and materialize, being covered by the media. What you have to understand is that the media, just because they're not promoting something, just because they're saying that something's bad, just because they're saying this is bad, this thing is bad, Donald Trump is bad, just because they're saying that it doesn't mean that they're not covering it, right? If you're condemning something, you're still covering it. And so this is what is important, and what to understand by what I mean by it's not about freedom of choice. It's about freedom from choice. This is what I'm talking about. You have to understand that when they present an opposite case and condemn something, they can be playing just it's just like an actor plays the counterpart. You can have an idea, which is a thesis, and then a resistance, which is the antithesis. The real point and purpose of the entire thing is the synthesis, which is what you, as a reasonable human being with a normal brain, are going to obviously think, right? And it's not that hard to see when you look at things like BLM burning down neighborhoods and stuff like that. Like what, there is a reasonable ground that is there, and that's not it. And the BLM burning down neighborhoods is gonna push you there. And when you get guns taken away, it's gonna push you there. And when you have, Joe Biden as president, it's gonna push you there. And that's the exact reason that Donald Trump is gonna come back and go for this next election. Now,
You still believe that?
it's absolutely going to happen. It is absolutely going to happen. And the way that I know it, and I'll tell you right now so that you can watch it happen. And if that doesn't happen, then I'm happy to just eat my words and say that I'm antiquated and that my methods and observations aren't accurate. I'm fine with that.
You've been
I'm
right
telling
about a lot of shit though, in like creepy ways,
I'm
years
telling you
before
right now.
anything.
I'm telling you right now that Donald Trump is going to come back, and the reason why is because I know that Rothschild House owns all media. If you research the Associated Press, you will
Yeah.
find a giant statue at the headquarters of the Associated Press that dedicates it to the Rothschilds
Yep.
because they funded it. But what you will, and that's a very conspicuous example. The real case is that there is no mainstream media that is not owned by the Rothschilds. That is the reality. And what I can tell you is in this synthetic WWE wrestling match, which is socialists and BLM taking over the world, the counter position to that is Trump. And that's it. And you're not allowed to have any other counter position. And everything else that's going on, like the trucker revolt in Canada, is just a soft piss version of Trump. And that's it. And in the media, in the amount of time between, now and the next election, which is coming in 2024, they don't have time to raise you up another idol or hero. They don't have time. They don't have time to invest the coverage that would be required into a new resistance. The only person they have is Trump. And that's
That's true.
and they never took the time to reinvest that energy into another persona. Now that should tell you two really important things that will seem like we're reading the future, but we're not. What we're really doing is just doing deductive logic here. What that means is that number one, Trump is going to run. Okay. And Trump is probably going to win. Trump certainly most likely won the last election that Biden ran in. I'm
Yeah,
sure
but they
that.
needed the digression.
But the second thing that it should tell you, what is the age of Trump?
Well, he's what, almost 70?
Well, that's pretty old. And so what I would tell you is that it's number one, an extremely dangerous idea to put the fall of the United States and the fall of the free world into the hands solely of somebody that's 70 years old. It's about the worst strategy that I could possibly come up with. You need the youngest man possible to come up with a defense for the free world against global communism and global, whatever you want to call this that's going on. You need something that's extremely young because this fight is going to go on more than a generation. And Donald
Yeah.
Trump is not going to live beyond, no matter what, no matter how well he does, he is not going to go beyond another generation. So what that should tell you, if there is not another, uh, if there is not another candidate that is coming up that is being padded and funded and promoted by the right wing media, then what you should, that if there's nobody else and every other potential candidate just really doesn't make it, and they're soft piss candidate, that you are being set up to lose.
Mm. Damn. So a year ago, if you remember the episode when we had Johnny B come on and he started laughing hysterically when the topic came up of Trump coming back. Um, the logic he just dropped is, or the observations he just dropped. I could definitely see that. I think
Tell you
the
something. Let me tell you something. This week. I just saw on Sean Hannity asking Trump if he was going to run for 2024, and then he recomposed his question and said, "Have you made a decision about whether or not you're going to run for 2024?" And Donald Trump's answer was yes.
mm, damn, that's crazy.
It supports it supports the evidence. We'll see what happens. It's when it happens, as you watch it unfold, you'll either Dugan will be a babbling idiot, and none of this will matter anyway, and you're not going to be much closer to understanding anything because all this doesn't make much. It really doesn't make much sense anyway because it's just a madman's game in the first place. But that'll be the case then, and if it does happen, you'll be able to, glean some insight into what's going on. Ultimately what's going on is that you have a bunch of people trying to get you to fight a war in Ukraine right now, and Ukraine is right by China, and all the money is invested in the war on China. That's what you really got to watch out for. The
Yeah,
number one thing that I want to explain that's most important is that your life is what's important. Your life and your opportunity to make family is what is most important, and what the media is most against, and what the current trajectory of humanity as a progressive society, regardless of the country, is most against, is you seizing your destiny and seizing your future and having a wife and having children and fulfilling a role that is higher and more rewarding than any career that you could possibly ever entertain. Having children and raising children will reward you, whether you are a man or a woman, is going to reward you more than any amount of money that could ever come your way and any opportunity that could ever come your way. You will have a greater chance and a greater opportunity of reward from just having a family or attempting to have a family and raise children. And uh, this is pretty much exactly what everything is pushing against right now in the world. If you're into progression and progressive society, you are going to be told that this is not something that you should do, that you should wait, that you should put it off until you have space, that you should put it off until you have property, you should put it off until you have more money, that you need a bigger job, that you need the minivan, you need to spend the money. I'm telling you that you do not need to do this. That your opportunity to have children is solely predicated on your ability to have children physically when you're young, and you're blessed with a long opportunity to do it. But it is if you should choose to do it, it will be the most rewarding thing that you could possibly fulfill as a role, is to be a father or to be a mother to children.
damn, that's deep, man. So as we kind of wrap it up here, because I know we both got families and it's late. Um, and I want to continue having this conversation and these conversations. I want to have you back on, but having family, being able to carry on the generations and being able to carry on, um, these types of values. I mean, what type of advice or information, like what could you pass on to everybody to give them like just
What I
something to cling on to
yeah
or action?
what I would say is that life will find a way, and so you got to work with what's going to work. But you can have babies on the floor. You can live as long as you have heat and water and food. There's people in third world countries that have been having babies in the most wretched conditions since antiquity, and you can do it. And there's a lot of things standing in your way, but they're all just smoke, and you're gonna look through it. And if it means anything to you, if it means anything in terms of like what I say, I got two boys. I had them both on the living room floor. My wife, I didn't deliver them. Obviously, my wife delivered them on the living room floor. They don't have any social security numbers. They're feral. Okay, I did that myself because I want to have as free of a future as possible for my kids. If they want to go get social security numbers, the Social Security Administration will be happy, more than happy to give it to them at any time that they choose.
Yeah,
But I want them to come into the world as free as God made them, uh, and I don't want to take away that right from them. And what I'm saying is that all the tools that you need to be successful in that endeavor of having a family and birthing kids, all of them are already here. The food is already made. Everything's already here. You just have a bunch of smoke in the way, in terms of fake illusions that make you think that you can't do it. It's all fake. All it takes is dedication and and the willingness from you, and that's it. And it's already in place. If you plant the seed, you're gonna be having a baby, my friend. So God willing, and that's the biggest advice that I would give you is that it is absolutely possible. And the other thing I would say is don't wait. Do not wait. There will never be a time that feels like it's opportune. There will never be a time where you'll feel like you're secure and in a place where you can handle it. That time in the future when everything's going to be okay. That time's it's not going to come. Okay,
yeah,
it's never going to feel that way. It never felt that way for any person in history, in any century. Uh,
yeah,
you need to take advantage of your time here on earth because it will come to an end. And there's nothing that you could do that's going to be more rewarding than perpetuating your generations. It is absolutely your personal time capsule into the future. And you are a secret astronaut being launched out into space. And your only hope of survival is to continue your generations, and doing so is going to bring you it's going to bring you more happiness than any object that you could buy or any investment that you could make.
damn. Yeah, I'd agree. Having my daughter who just turned 5, that was the biggest impact that I've ever had on my life. And I keep telling myself, just like a lot of other people do, like I want to have another child, I want to have more children, but I can't because of XYZ, and I want a boy, but I can't because of, and it typically relates back to, you know, money,
Money.
stupid shit like that. Yeah, yeah, money, consumerism, bullshit, and since I don't know if we've talked about this at all. It's been a while, but I literally I took action. I canceled everything from Amazon, Amazon Prime, Netflix, Disney Plus. I literally went through my credit card. I fucking stopped everything, even like the little ABC mouse game that like my daughter used to play. Done. Like I've killed all that shit because one, I don't want to fund them, and two, they're doing whatever they can to program the minds of our children. They don't want us; they want our kids.
I want to close it out with one thing. I just want to say one thing. Go ye and serve each their idols, and do not inquire of me, O house of Israel. Ye shall not inquire of me. And that's a passage that I wanted to leave you with. And we are certainly in a world that is absolutely full of idols that will lead us nowhere and gain us nothing and only take from us. Everything that we really need is truly provided for us without the contamination of exploitation that comes along with brands. And if you go using your hands to do labor and then send your money, your hard work, your tears, your sweat, your blood towards Patagonia, and then Patagonia on the back end where you can't see sends all their money to Alliance for Global Justice, who's a 501c3. And if they take that legally funded money that you bought and you spend on your credit card and they go and put it into another organization that then funds Antifa through Thousand Tides, that's run by Susan Rosenberg, and then they go and launch a campaign in your neighborhood and burn down establishments and cause the destruction of your country to where people don't have faith anymore in their flag, then you know automatically that's because you spent the money that way, right?
Mm.
And you may not have a choice of how much your money is worth, how worthless it is, or how valuable it is. You may not have a choice in that, but you do have a choice in where it goes and how you spend it, and you have a choice of what you spend it on, you know.
Yeah.
And it's a good idea. You'll never ever go wrong investing on your family. You'll never go wrong investing on. Anytime you're thinking about your future, anytime you're thinking about putting something away, you can never go wrong with it. Money can inflate, but a big sauerkraut crock, it doesn't. I've got one from like 1800 that I use right now to make sauerkraut in. So that's what I would advise, is like using money for things that are going to last. Think about it like a battery. It's like an energy battery, right? You can spend it. You can spend it on a Netflix subscription that's then going to fund actual communism that they don't call communism, but it's going to be way more destructive than communism. Or you can go buy some bullets, or you can go buy some sauerkraut crocks from an antique
Mm.
store.
Damn. Well, it's been a long time since we've spoken, and it's been a long time since you've been on. And dude, I appreciate you coming on. I'm so glad to see that you're doing better health wise. And I know it's like not about you, but man, I was terrified when I saw that video, and to see kind of where you are now and how much you've improved. I'm really grateful for that. And I know you got a message to get out, and I believe in that. And I would love to have you back on and continue the conversation if you're cool with that.
Thank you so much, and thank you humbly for giving me the opportunity to talk to people about things that they may or may not be concerned about, and may feel alone and confused. And I just wanted everybody to know that you're not alone. We're all going through this. It's we are all extremely at our ends in terms of like understanding how to navigate the situation without just going into straight violence. And it's
Yeah,
a very difficult situation, and really think about your family, and think about the long game here. This is a long game strategy where our individual lives really aren't important. What's most important is our actions and doing what is truly right in a long sense of it, right? And tyranny, if you think about it, has been here for a long time, for a lot of generations. And just because it comes in a new form with new technology doesn't mean that the overarching strategy of resistance is going to be different. It's still going to be the same thing. The resistance is going to come from the heart, from the individual that is resisting. And if you don't make new generations, you're not going to be able to resist, because this is going to be a long game.
damn. Well, you guys know I end every single stream the same way. I always say rule number one is to be kind. Being kind is the most important thing that you can do. It has the biggest impact on people. and live a life of care, compassion, contribution, bless others, and you'll be blessed. It's the way the world works. And also, we know that the only thing that stops evil is good men skilled in violence. So make sure that the good people out there are becoming as highly skilled in violence as possible, and stay safe and stay dangerous, and keep that thing on you. And
Glory to the Almighty.
yeah. All right, y'all. Thank you, Dugan. Love you, brother. Thank you for coming on, man. Great to have you. All right, y'all. Damn, that's crazy. Damn, I can't believe that he was literally just on here. That's so crazy, guys. Thank you for coming on. Sorry I wasn't able to keep rolling with chat, but damn, this is gonna be one I come back and watch. All right, y'all. Peace.